The false gods of the galaxy. The galaxy was old, filled with countless civilizations, empires, and alliances. But in the center of it all there stood a force that all races feared. They were known as the gods of the galaxy, beings who claimed to be eternal, powerful, and untouchable. Their fleets spread across star systems, their temples built on alien worlds, and their voices echoed in every council chamber. For generations, no one questioned them. The gods were not born divine, yet they made others believe it. Long ago, they discovered technology older than the stars themselves, relics from a civilization that had vanished. With that power, they created warships larger than mountains, weapons that could shatter moons, and shields that could bend light when they first appeared. Weaker races saw their power and believed they were gods. The gods encouraged this, demanding tribute, worship, and obedience. Civilizations bowed, worlds surrendered, and entire species built statues to honor their so-called rulers. Those who resisted were destroyed, not with armies but with a single strike from the sky. Cities turned to glass, oceans boiled, and survivors whispered the same warning. The gods cannot be defied. In time, even the galaxy's most advanced empires accepted the lie. It was easier to worship than to fight, easier to bend the knee than to burn. For thousands of years, the gods controlled the stars. They wrote the laws of the galaxy, and even the Council of Stars, the gathering of alien civilizations, served them in silence. No voice dared to rise against them. No fleet dared to challenge them, and so the galaxy fell into an age of fear and obedience, an age where hope was chained. But in the shadows of this grand empire there were whispers, small voices that questioned the truth. If the gods were eternal, why did they hide their faces behind golden masks? If they were invincible, why did they never fight battles themselves? Why did they need armies of slaves to enforce their will? These whispers spread in secret, dangerous and forbidden, because to question the gods was to invite death. Among those who whispered were humans, a young race. Small in number compared to the ancient empires, humanity had only begun to step fully into the stars and to the galaxy. They seemed weak, reckless, and unworthy. The gods ignored them, believing they were no threat. But humans remembered something the galaxy had long forgotten. Humans did not worship false idols. They did not kneel before tyrants. Earth itself had suffered in its own history. Wars, oppression, kings and empires that called themselves divine. Humanity had fought them all, and over centuries, humans had learned one lesson. No one is born a god. Those who call themselves gods are only liars with power, and every liar can fall. It was this belief that shaped humanity's secret project. Hidden deep within the asteroid belts of Sol, away from alien spies and listening probes, humans built something the galaxy had never seen. A warship not meant to conquer but to prove the truth. A warship to show that the gods could bleed. Its construction took decades, every nation of Earth working in silence, hiding its existence even from their allies. The ship was vast, black in design, with armor thicker than any alien vessel, its weapons silent until called upon, and its engines able to bend the void itself. It was a weapon born from humanity's greatest minds and darkest fears, to the humans who built it. The ship was not just metal and fire, it was a promise that no false god would rule over free beings again. As rumors spread of unrest in the outer colonies, the Council of Stars warned humanity not to resist. Emissaries from the gods spoke of punishment and fire. They said Earth would burn if it ever disobeyed. But humanity did not listen. The Terran High Command gave only one answer. We do not kneel. The day came when the ship was ready, its crew chosen, veterans of wars, men and women who had nothing left to lose. They called the ship Erebus after the shadow before creation. It was a name chosen to strike fear, and to remind the crew of their mission, to bring an end to a false legend, to tear down the lie that had enslaved the stars. As Erebus left its hidden dock and moved into the void, alien observers caught fragments of its passage, a strange signal, a shadow in the dark. Panic spread among the servants of the gods. The whispers returned stronger than ever. Maybe the gods were not eternal. Maybe their time was ending. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy trembled not because of the gods, but because of humanity. And as the Terran warship advanced toward the forbidden systems of the gods, one truth was clear. The age of worship was ending, and the age of reckoning had begun. The warship Awakens the Erebus was more than just a ship. It was a shadow given form, forged in silence and hidden from the eyes of the galaxy. While alien empires traded power and worshipped their false gods, Humanity worked in secret, designing something that should never exist. For years, engineers lived in hollowed asteroids. Scientists vanished from Earth, and fleets of transports carried material under the cover of silence. Every rivet, every circuit, every weapon was placed with a single purpose: to strike where no one else dared. The ship's armor was layered with metals that did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. Forged in furnaces that burned hotter than stars, its engines used drives that bent gravity itself, giving the vessel movements that no alien fleet could predict. But its greatest weapon was not its size, nor its cannons, it was the silence in which it moved. The void seemed to swallow it, and sensors, no matter how advanced, returned nothing but shadows. The crew chosen for Erebus were not ordinary men and women. They were survivors, warriors, and thinkers, each handpicked not only for skill but for loyalty. They were told that their mission may never return them home. They were told that the galaxy would hate them, fear them, and call them monsters. Yet every one of them accepted, because they knew what it meant to live under tyrants. They had read the history of Earth. They knew the cost of kneeling, and they swore they would never kneel again. As the ship's engines hummed to life, the void shook. Deep within the hidden dock, alarms echoed not of danger but of awakening. The Terran High Command broadcasted a single encrypted signal across human colonies. It was a phrase carried through generations. No kings, no gods. When the people heard it, they did not cheer. They did not cry. They simply stood in silence, because they understood something had begun, something that would not end quietly. The galaxy did not understand what was coming, but fragments leaked. Spies who tried to infiltrate human colonies disappeared. Probes sent toward Sol vanished without response, and merchants whispered of strange movement in the asteroid belts. The Council of Stars summoned human diplomats, demanding answers, but the Terran ambassador only smiled, offering no truth, no denial, just silence. And in that silence, the fear grew. The gods themselves were not blind. Their temples burned with reports. Their priest-kings demanded to know why humans ignored their decrees. They had sent warnings. They had sent emissaries. But humanity did not bow. It was unheard of. No race had ever dared defy them openly. Yet here was Earth, a death world, a place mocked by the galaxy for its violence, for its storms, for its endless struggle for survival. Standing tall against them, the first test of Erebus came sooner than expected. In the cold void beyond the rim systems, a patrol fleet of the gods moved to intercept 3 colossal ships, armed with weapons that had destroyed countless rebels before. They expected the humans to halt, to surrender, to kneel. But Erebus did not slow. It did not respond. It moved like a predator, silent and calm. When the patrol hailed the humans, their words echoed across channels. By decree of the eternal gods, you will kneel or be destroyed. The crew of Erebus remained silent. Then with a whisper of energy, the warship fired a single shot, a beam of compressed gravity invisible to the eye. The first enemy ship folded in on itself, crushed as though the void itself had swallowed it. The second ship tried to turn, but its hull tore apart under a railgun barrage. Its armor shattered like glass. The third ship fled, screaming warnings into the void. The galaxy heard those warnings. They spread faster than light. Messages carried by terrified captains. By broken fleets, they spoke of a ship black as shadow, a ship that killed without mercy, a ship that defied the gods, and with every word, the illusion of immortality cracked across countless worlds. Slaves whispered, priests hesitated, and rulers who had once obeyed the gods began to wonder. If the humans could stand, why couldn't they? What if the gods were not gods at all, but only tyrants holding power by fear? In their golden halls, the gods roared with anger. They ordered fleets to gather. They declared humanity an enemy of creation, heretics who would be erased, yet their voices shook, for in their hearts they knew something terrible had begun. The humans had unleashed a weapon, but worse than that, the humans had unleashed an idea, the idea that no god was untouchable. As Erebus drifted deeper into forbidden space, its crew remained silent. No songs, no cheers, only determination. They knew every step forward brought them closer to death, but they also knew that every step forward tore down a lie. And sometimes, one truth is enough to shatter an empire. The first encounter. The false gods had ruled for so long that even their messengers were treated as divine. Wherever their emissaries traveled, planets bowed, kings surrendered, and armies laid down weapons without a fight. Their words were law, and their ships carried the banners of eternity. To stand against them was unthinkable. But humanity was not like the others. When word reached the temples of the gods that a Terran warship had destroyed a patrol fleet, they did not send their full power. Instead, they sent an emissary fleet, shining vessels plated in gold, escorted by priests and guardians. They believed that the humans would surrender once they heard the voice of the gods. The emissary fleet arrived in the Black Gulf beyond the rim systems, their banners glittering under alien suns, their voices carried across every channel. Children of Earth, you have trespassed against eternity. Bow now before the gods and your punishment will be light. Their words were heavy with pride, practiced through 10,000 years of fear. But aboard Erebus, silence ruled. The crew listened, their faces lit by the pale glow of screens. None answered. They had heard such words before in their own history. Tyrants, emperors, men who had declared themselves divine. Every one of them had fallen, everyone had bled. Humanity had never bowed forever, and they would not start now. The emissaries grew impatient, their ships closed the distance, golden armor gleaming, their leaders broadcasted again, their voices louder. We are eternal, we are gods, kneel before us or be erased from existence. Their arrogance filled the stars. But the Terran warship did not move. It drifted silently, its black hull swallowing starlight, a predator watching prey. Then the captain of Erebus gave a single order, his voice calm. Target the lead vessel. The crew obeyed. Railguns aligned. Gravity can. Nons charged. The void trembled, and with a single pulse of energy the lead emissary ship shattered. One moment it was whole, the next it was fragments spinning into the dark, the golden banners torn apart like paper. The rest of the emissary fleet panicked. They had never faced resistance, never seen their kind destroyed. Some tried to flee, others screamed across the channels, calling on their gods to save them, but no savior came. Erebus moved through them like a shadow of death. Railgun rounds tore through gold armor, plasma beams melted their shields. In minutes the emissary fleet was gone, reduced to wreckage and silence, and in that silence the galaxy listened. Every transmission, every scream, every desperate plea had been heard. Across slave worlds the whispers grew into hope. Across council chambers leaders trembled, and in temples the priests faltered. If the emissaries could be destroyed, then the gods could be destroyed too. The survivors carried the story further. One ship managed to escape, broken and burning, but alive. It limped back to the core worlds of the gods, its crew raving about a Terran warship, a black shadow that swallowed fleets. They spoke of weapons no one understood, of silence more terrifying than any sermon. The gods heard these words with fury. They declared the humans cursed, unworthy of life. They promised destruction greater than any seen before. Fleets were ordered to gather, crusades to march. Yet behind their golden masks, they knew fear. Their voices cracked when they declared their divinity, for the illusion had been pierced. Aboard Erebus, the crew remained steady. They did not celebrate. They did not shout. They only continued forward because they knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The emissaries were nothing. The real test was still ahead. The gods themselves would come, and when they did, the galaxy would finally see what humanity was capable of. For now, the stars were silent. Wreckage floated like broken crowns, golden banners turned to ash, and the lie of divinity cracked further. The first encounter was over, and the legend of false gods had begun to die. Fear spreads among the stars. News traveled faster than light, faster than truth, faster even than fear. Within days of the emissary fleet's destruction, the galaxy was no longer the same. What had been whispers in shadows became voices in the open, and what had been faith became doubt. On slave worlds, workers paused in silence, their chains heavy, yet their hearts lighter. They spoke to one another in hidden corners. The emissaries are gone, destroyed by humans. On distant colonies where the banners of the gods once hung, those banners were torn down in secret, hidden under floors, burned in fields, because if the humans could stand, maybe others could too. The Council of Stars tried to silence the chaos. Their leaders stood before crowds declaring that the gods remained eternal, that humanity had committed a crime against creation, but their words did not ring with the same power anymore. Fear had cracked their voices, and doubt had entered their eyes. The galaxy could see it, and the galaxy could feel it. Priests shouted in temples, chanting the old mantras, declaring curses upon earth. Yet fewer bowed their heads. Some stood silent, others walked away. Something impossible had happened. The emissaries had been destroyed, and that single act had undone 10,000 years of obedience. The gods themselves roared with fury. Their golden palaces shook with their commands. Fleets were summoned from every corner, armadas built of millions of ships. They swore to bring Earth to ruin, to burn the Sol system until not even dust remained. Yet behind their threats was something new, something alien to them: fear. They had been challenged, and worse, they had been hurt. Meanwhile, aboard Erebus, the crew received fragments of intercepted transmissions. They listened to alien voices filled with terror. They heard slaves whispering their names like prayers. They heard rulers stammering in panic. For the first time, humanity understood that their ship was not only a weapon, it was a symbol. It carried not just fire, but hope. Still, the warship pressed on, deeper into forbidden space, every step forward a defiance, every mile closer a reminder that humanity would not bow. The crew knew what awaited them, not emissaries this time, but entire fleets, and behind those fleets the gods themselves. In the outer colonies, rebellions began in small sparks. Slaves attacked their overseers. Banners of resistance rose from ashes. In markets and taverns across the stars, aliens spoke the words they had never dared before. The gods are not gods. The humans proved it. Hope spread like wildfire, uncontrollable and dangerous. The council, desperate to stop the tide, released endless propaganda. They painted humanity as monsters, death-world demons who sought to destroy creation itself. They showed images of ruined ships and broken fleets, blaming humans for chaos. Yet the more they shouted, the less they were believed, because every alien who had lived in fear remembered the truth. The humans had struck only the servants of the gods, not the innocent, not the weak, and so the galaxy stood on the edge of something it had not seen in millennia. Not just war, but rebellion. Not just resistance, but freedom. In the temples of the gods, the high priests gathered in fear. Their chants faltered, their faith in their own masters shaken. They had spent generations building the illusion of eternity. But illusions shatter quickly when faced with reality, and the humans were reality. Cold, unyielding, unstoppable. Across the void, the gods sent their warnings. Their voices thundered. We will erase humanity. We will erase Earth. We will erase hope. But their threats no longer rang like divine commands. They sounded like the rage of rulers who felt their throne shaking. In the silence of space, Erebus continued forward, its hull scarred from battles, but its spirit unbroken. The crew stared ahead, their faces calm, their hands steady. They knew the galaxy watched them. Every world, every slave, every ruler, every priest, all waited to see if the humans would stand or fall. And as the ship advanced deeper into forbidden space, one truth grew louder than the threats of the gods, louder than the chants of priests, louder even than the fear of the council. The truth was this: divinity had been broken, fear had been broken, the galaxy was no longer theirs to command. Humanity's stand, the path through forbidden space, was long and filled with shadows, yet Erebus did not turn back. It pressed deeper, through systems no mortal ship had entered for millennia, until at last the black warship reached the threshold of the god worlds. The core system of the false gods was unlike anything else in the galaxy. There, a dying star burned faint and red, surrounded by palaces built on hollow moons. Cities of crystal and gold floated above its light, and from these fortresses, the gods had ruled for 10,000 years. Their fleets encircled the star like rings of iron, countless ships standing guard. When Erebus crossed into this domain, alarms spread across the empire. Priests fell to their knees screaming prayers. Rulers begged for protection. Slaves whispered in awe. Never before had an enemy dared to enter so deeply. Never before had a mortal warship reached the throne of eternity. The fleets moved to meet the humans. Not hundreds, not thousands, but tens of thousands of ships, vast armada. As drawn from every corner of the galaxy, their weapons burned like stars. Their voices declared across every channel, Terrans, you have gone too far. By order of the gods, you will be erased from existence. Inside Erebus, the crew listened, their faces pale but steady. They knew they stood against impossible odds, yet not one of them spoke of surrender. They had been chosen because they were ready to die, because they believed that some things must be done no matter the cost. The captain gave his order, his voice calm as stone. All weapons online, prepare to fire. The ship came alive, railguns hummed, gravity cannons glowed, stealth systems pulsed. The void itself seemed to shiver as the Terran warship bared its fangs. The first wave of the enemy came fast, a swarm of cruisers and battleships, their firepower enough to reduce planets to ash. But Erebus did not falter. Its railguns roared, spearing through shields and armor. Ships burst like shattered glass. Its cannons bent gravity, pulling enemy vessels into themselves until they collapsed into fire. Yet for every ship destroyed, more came. The void filled with light, plasma beams, and energy bolts striking against the black hull. Shields screamed under the weight, armor cracked, alarms echoed through corridors. Still the crew fought, their hands steady, their voices calm, their hearts filled with one thought. They would not bow. In the council chambers across the galaxy, alien rulers watched in silence, their eyes wide, their voices trembling. They saw the lone Terran ship holding against fleets that should have been unstoppable. They saw humans fighting where no other species dared, and they began to believe. Rebellions spread faster now, entire worlds rising while the battle raged, slaves breaking chains, armies throwing down the banners of the gods, because if one Terran ship could stand against eternity, then perhaps the galaxy could stand too. But then the void shook with something greater. From the heart of the dying star came a vessel unlike any seen before, a ship the size of a moon, forged of living crystal and fire. Its presence crushed the space around it. Its weapons could shatter worlds. This was the flagship of the gods, the throne of eternity, the symbol of their absolute rule. When it appeared, even the crew of Erebus felt the weight of dread. The vessel towered over them, dwarfing their warship. Its voice echoed across the galaxy. The false gods spoke as one. "We are eternal, we are divine. Your defiance ends now." Their words filled every channel, every world, every mind. The crew of Erebus stood firm. Their captain raised his voice against the storm. "No one is born a god. You are liars. And today we prove it." His words were carried across the stars, not just to his crew but to the galaxy itself. A defiance louder than any weapon. The throne of eternity advanced. Its weapons ignited. The void itself split apart as power beyond measure gathered, and for the first time in thousands of years, the gods themselves prepared for battle. The stage was set, a single human warship against the throne of eternity. The galaxy held its breath, rebellions froze in silence, rulers paused in fear, slaves stared to the sky, waiting, watching, because whatever happened next would decide the future of creation, shattering the illusion. The throne of eternity loomed in the void, its vast form blotting out the stars, a vessel so massive it was mistaken for a small moon, forged in living crystal, crowned with golden spires, and powered by technology the galaxy could not understand. For ages its mere presence had ended wars. No fleet dared face it, no empire survived its wrath. Now it faced a single ship. Erebus, black and scarred, drifting yet unbroken. The gods spoke, their voices woven together like thunder. "Terrans, you will kneel, you will burn, and the memory of your defiance will be erased." Their words echoed across the galaxy. Every world forced to listen, every species commanded to witness. It was the sound of divinity declaring final judgment. But aboard Erebus, the crew did not kneel. They stood at their stations, eyes fixed on the impossible enemy before them. The captain's voice broke the silence, calm, steady, unyielding. "Target the throne." The void erupted. Beams of crystal light lanced from the flagship, each strike powerful enough to crack a planet's crust. Shields flared on Erebus. The hull shook. Alarms screamed. Yet the Terran warship fired back. Railguns tore through escorts. Plasma cannons burned holes in golden armor. The black ship struck again and again, a predator clawing at a mountain. Still the throne advanced, shields shimmering, weapons roaring. It seemed unstoppable. Entire wings of fighters swarmed, their weapons biting at the Terran hull. Sections of Erebus burned, corridors filled with smoke. Crew members dragged the wounded back to their posts. No one left their station. They had sworn to this fight, and they would not break. The galaxy watched in silence, billions holding their breath as one small ship stood against the throne of gods, and in that silence came the moment that shattered the illusion. The captain gave the order for humanity's final weapon, a device hidden deep within the ship, a creation of desperation and genius, the Star Core Destabilizer, a weapon designed not to kill ships but to unmake the heart of suns. The crew armed it, voices trembling yet steady. They knew what it meant. They knew this might be their final act, but they did not hesitate. The weapon fired, invisible to the eye, a pulse that touched the throne of eternity and reached into its core. The flagship trembled, its living crystal cracked, gold and spires shattered. Its shields screamed as the impossible happened. The throne bled. Across the galaxy, the illusion shattered. Priests collapsed in temples, rulers gasped in horror, slaves cried out in hope. For the first time in history, the gods had been wounded. The gods roared in fury, their voices broken. "We are eternal, we cannot fall." But their words no longer rang as commands, they rang as fear. Erebus pressed the attack, railguns spearing into broken crystal, plasma storms ripping through golden spires, every strike a hammer blow against a false throne. The crew fought with everything left, systems failing, weapons overheating, hull tearing apart. Still they struck. At last the destabilizer fired again. The throne cracked wider, its heart flaring like a dying star. The flagship screamed across every channel, the voices of the gods turning to terror, to agony, to silence. And then with one final shattering cry, the throne of eternity exploded, fragments burning as they fell into the void. The galaxy trembled, not with fear, but with awakening. The lie had been destroyed. The gods were not gods. They were only tyrants, mortal, fallible, broken. Aboard Erebus, the crew watched the wreckage drift, their ship in flames, their bodies exhausted, yet their hearts steady. They had done it. They had shattered the illusion. They had proved to the galaxy that no one is born divine. And as the news spread across countless worlds, chains broke, rebellions ignited, faith crumbled, and hope rose like fire. The age of worship was dying, and the age of freedom was beginning. The dawn of a new age. The wreckage of the throne of eternity drifted across the void, fragments of golden spires glowing like dying embers. The voices of the false gods were gone, silenced forever. And in that silence, the galaxy changed. On slave worlds, the news spread like fire. Chains were broken not only by hands but by hearts. Overseers who once held whips now fled in fear. Statues of the gods were toppled, their temples burned, and in the streets for the first time in living memory, people shouted not prayers but cries of freedom. In council chambers across alien empires, rulers sat in stunned silence, their lips dry, their eyes wide. They had bowed for centuries, obeying what they believed eternal, but now the eternal lay shattered in space, destroyed by a single human ship. Their advisors whispered of rebellion, of change, of opportunity, and none could deny it anymore. The gods had been liars, and the lie was dead. Priests once so proud collapsed in their temples. Their mantras faltered, their voices broke. They tried to speak of curses and vengeance, but no one listened. Faith had cracked, and with it, the chains of fear. Aboard Erebus, the crew sat in silence, their ship broken, their bodies weary, yet their spirits unbroken. They had done what no one believed possible. They had slain the untouchable. They had revealed the truth. Some wept, others smiled faintly. But all knew they had changed history. The captain sent a single broadcast, his voice carrying across the stars, steady and clear. No one is born a god. No one is meant to rule in chains. Today we proved it. Rise and claim your freedom. His words reached every world, every ship, every ear, and the galaxy listened. Rebellions ignited one after another, sparks turning into flames. Planets casting down banners, armies turning against their masters, fleets that once served the gods now split apart, some joining the uprising, others fleeing in fear. The galaxy that had been silent for millennia roared, but humanity did not raise its own banners over conquered worlds. They did not demand worship or tribute. The Terran High Command sent a message through the stars. We are not your masters, we are not your gods, we are only your allies. Stand with us, and we will stand. With you. This message spread faster than the threats of the false gods ever had, because it was not built on fear. It was built on truth, on defiance, on hope. In time, the golden palaces of the gods crumbled into ruins, their priests vanished, their statues broken, and their names spoken only as curses of the past. The galaxy entered a new age, not free of war, not free of struggle, but free of divinity, and at the heart of every story told, in every tavern, every council, every rebellion, one name was spoken with awe. Erebus, the warship of humanity, the shadow that broke eternity. Legends grew. Tales spread of a small blue world on the edge of the stars, a death world that defied gods, a people who remembered history and refused to bow, a race that reminded the galaxy of the oldest truth, that power does not make gods. Courage does. As centuries would pass, songs would be written, stories would be carved in stone, and children would hear the tale at night. how once the galaxy worshipped false gods. But one day, a Terran warship rose from the shadows, and in its defiance, the age of fear ended. And though the ship itself drifted broken in the void, its mission was complete, its legend eternal. Humanity had proven the lie false, had proven the tyrants mortal, and had proven one thing above all, that when the galaxy worshipped them as gods, it was humanity's warship that proved them wrong.